Good morning, ladies. God bless you this morning for coming out. How many know when you go through the refiner's fire and you come out, a person shouldn't be able to identify what you went through? They shouldn't be able to look at you and say, oh, she's been through this, she's been through that, because you've been refined through the fire. And what I'm about to tell you, ladies, is what you don't know about me is I was a victim of domestic violence, a very, very vicious cycle of domestic violence. I was charged with first-degree murder for shooting my then boyfriend that I lived with for some time. But what I'm about to tell you, I don't want your pity. I don't want you to say, oh, wow, she really, and she did. But what I want you to see is the direct product of the mercy of God that's been on my life. And even though we go through things in our lives and we see it as a dark place, God is still yet in that. He's still yet there. You might not be seeing it when you're in it, but when you come out of it and you're sitting there and I'm standing up here and I'm able to say and tell you what happened, God had to have been there. It wasn't the devil. He wanted to take us out right in that moment. He wanted to kill us right then and there. But I'm telling you, ladies, I should not be here. I should not be here on planet Earth. Not only at Transformation Church on a Saturday morning, I shouldn't even be on planet Earth. As my boyfriend wanted to kill me. And at the time, I'm going to fast walk it a little bit. But at the time, I had 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And I was pregnant. I was about 4 months pregnant. And my boyfriend, he didn't want me to go outside. He didn't want me to leave that day because I said I was going to the store. And he said, you're not going anywhere. And nor are you taking the 2 kids with you. So I said, okay. So my 2 sons that were sitting there on the couch, they got to crying because they wanted to come with me because they knew how he was. So I left out the door and went and to get my car to go to the store. And he came out, and there was kids playing in the neighborhood. They were playing basketball, football. There was a bunch of kids out front. I used to live in Pittsburgh. And he came out, when I got in the car, he came out and he came from the passenger side, and he reached in and he snatched the keys out of the ignition. And he turned around and he went back up on the porch. He said, I told you you're not going anywhere. So I got out the car, very calmly, I might add, and I started walking down the street because friends of mine lived on that same block. Started walking down the street. And as I started walking down the street, I hear gunshots go off. Pew, 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 pew. With 6 gunshots that went off. And in that moment, I turned around and I said, well, wait a minute. Did he shoot my 2 kids that were in there? And then shoot himself? I'm not knowing what's going on, people. I'm not knowing anything. As I'm walking down the street to call the police because I wanted them out of there. And up on the front porch of a house, there was a lady and her friends were sitting there. And very calmly, I went down and said, can I use your phone? I didn't say what was going on. I didn't say I heard gunshots. I said nothing. I just said, can I use your phone? She said, sure, T. She came down, she handed me the phone. I got on the phone and I said, they said, 911, may I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm up on Braddock Avenue, and I want my boyfriend out because he's acting crazy. I didn't say he was shooting the gun off. I didn't say I didn't say any of that. I just said, I need you to come because I want him out. And as I turned around when I was on the phone, I looked up and I seen him standing on the corner of the porch. So I said to myself, okay, he didn't shoot himself, but I didn't know if he shot my 2 children, my 8-year-old and my 1.5-year-old. I didn't know. So as I slowly handed her back the phone, I started walking back up the street, and he turned and went in the house. And I can hear sirens, police sirens. They seemed like they were coming up the side street. And when they got there, they said, are you the one that called? I said, yeah. They said, can we go in? I said, yeah. I went in behind them. And sitting on the couch was my 8-year-old son. My then 1.5-year-old was asleep. And I said, once they said, my son said, he's upstairs. So they went upstairs to try to get him to come on downstairs. And I looked at my son, I said, where was he shooting at? And all along the wall, there was bullet holes, 6 of them. And when they came downstairs, I still didn't say anything. And they escorted him out the door. And they said to me, you need to go get a PFA because we know he's going to come back. But at the time, you had to go to the courthouse to go get the PFAs. You couldn't just get them through the police department. So I said, okay. So they left. They escorted him up the street somewhere. I'm fast forwarding, ladies. So I called on the phone to my girlfriend. I'm talking on the phone, and I'm pacing back and forth to my living room. I went and got the gun out the drawer where my son said, that's where he put the gun at. I went and I got it. I had it in my hand. I'm pacing back and forth, walking. I'm like, what's going on here? He's going to come back. I know it. And she said, T, you need to get out of there before he comes back. And soon as she said that, at the back door was boom, 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 boom. He was knocking. He said, I need to get in there. I'm coming to get my stuff. Meaning he was coming to get his gun. So I go to the back door. My 8-year-old son, he never left the couch. In shock, he was just sitting there. So I go to the back door. And I said, you're not getting in here. We're arguing back and forth. All of a sudden, the door comes down like it was coming on top of me. And I take my shoulder, because I had the phone in this hand, take my shoulder and I try to block the door. And this hand, where my gun was at, .357 Magnum, I raised it up and pew, I shot through my back door. I heard nothing. It was dead silence. When I went to the back door, I looked out, and over in the corner, that's where he laid at. And blood was spewing out, whoosh, whoosh, like a fountain. And I go, oh my God, I shot him. And I run back in and I said to my son, go call 911. And my son that was 8, he jumped up, he grabbed the 1-year-old and pew, out the front door they went. I went back in, I looked out like, oh my gosh. I could still see him breathing. He was going, but the blood was still coming. It was gushing. I ran back. I went out to my front porch. I go, somebody help me. I shot my boyfriend. Someone help me, please. And the neighbor from across the street, he came running over and he said, where? And I pointed, I said, back there. He went running back there. When he came back, it was like he wanted to throw up. He said, what did you do? I said, I don't know. I called 911. So they called 911. I'm still out on my porch. I'm in shock, people. I'm in shock. I run back into my house and I look out and he took his last breath. I said, oh my God. I killed this man. Ran back out on my porch. As I was coming out on my porch, the police, they were pulling up. They were jumping out. And they had their guns drawn. But in shock, I'm not knowing what they're doing with their guns drawn, because I'm not realizing I still had that gun in my hand. And they're saying to me, ma'am, drop your weapon. Drop it. Drop your weapon. And I'm looking around, I go, what? What are you talking about? They go, drop your weapon. So as I went to step down off the porch, they bum rushed me and threw me to the ground. Mind you, I'm about 4 months pregnant. And my girlfriend was over, I came around, she said, don't shoot her, don't shoot her, don't shoot her, she's pregnant, don't shoot her. They picked me up off the ground with the handcuffs on, and they threw me in the back of the police car. Took me down to the police station. And through all that, ladies, through all this, in the mind of someone that's being violently abused, I was worried about his mother knowing what happened. They said, you want to make a phone call? I didn't say, yeah, I want to call my mom. I wanted to call his mom. I'm telling you, ladies, the Lord can bring you out of the darkest area of your life. And I'm convinced things are meant to happen. Whatever happened in your life, it was meant to happen. It was meant to happen. So that the Lord can turn your pain into power. What you see right here is the mercy of God. Because I could have been gone in that moment. Domestic violence is real. But I'm here to tell you that God had mercy on me. I was facing 25 to 52 years in jail for first-degree murder. They said I tried to set him up and lure him back to the house. And then I shot him at point-blank range. The bullet went through his neck and it exited and landed in my neighbor's front in her kitchen. It was on her floor, the bullet that pierced him through his neck. Fast forward, I went to my trial. And my lawyer that I had at that time, he kept saying, kid, he would call me kid. He said, kid, do you believe in that thing that you're carrying? He said, I always have my Bible with me every day of the trial. He said, do you believe? I said, yes, I do. He said, good, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it. So at the end of my trial, it lasted for 5 days. The Lord, the jury came back and they said, when the green light comes on, the jury has reached its verdict. I was down the hall. I was pacing back and forth. I was talking to my mom on the phone. And all of a sudden, I looked up. I seen the green light. I said, oh, gosh. My fate is now in the hands of jurors. And when I went back into the courtroom, the judge said, Tammi, I need you to stand up. He gave orders in the courtroom that nobody was to move or make a sound until the verdict was read. And they said, my lawyer said, stand up. So I stood up. My knees were shaking. I was holding on to the front of the desk. And they said, we, the jury of Allegheny County, find Tammi Bridgers not guilty of first-degree murder, not guilty of second-degree murder, and not guilty of manslaughter. And I walked out of that courtroom and I told God, you brought me out of that. And I vow for the rest of my life, I will serve you. And I will tell the people of your goodness and your mercy. And I had a song that's been generating in my heart ever since that day. And I can't sing a lick, so I'm not going to sing. But it says, the psalmist says, all my life, you have been faithful. All my life, you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm going to sing of the goodness of God. He can do it, ladies. He can bring you on through no matter what you've been going through. I'm telling you, I shouldn't be here. I should be in a mental institution. I'm telling you. My daughter is now, I had a daughter out of that when I told you I was pregnant. The mercy of God. He loves us that much that he keeps us. He keeps us for such a time as this. You all have a testimony. I know you do. But never forget about his love and how he sustains us through it all, even those dark pits in our life. He'll bring you through. I'm a living testimony. I love you, ladies. God bless you. And just remember, he can do it. Even when you think he can't, he can.